Hello everyone. In this session, we are going to talk about the reference lines in Tableau. A reference line in Tableau is a versatile feature that empowers the data analyst and visualization data to add the context and invaluable insights to their visualization. This tool offers a way to highlight the specified values or thresholds within your data, which facilitates the comparisons, trend analysis, and decision making. So here's an exploration of where can you use the trend lines. The first part is that it can be used to add the context. As the reference line is used to provide the context to your data, it can be representing various reference points, such as an average, target value, or a specified data point. By including a reference line in your visualization, you can make it easier for your audience to understand how individual data points relate to those reference values. Next, we can see that it can be used to create some enhancing comparisons. The reference lines plays a crucial role over here. And when displayed alongside your data points, it allows the viewers to quickly access whether your data values are above, below, on, or par with these reference lines. And this can help us in understanding and making some better judgments. The next one, since we are talking about the better judgments, it is the support of decision making through this reference lines. Reference lines are frequently used to aid in decision. They can help us to access whether the performance meets the specific goals of benchmark. For instance, in a sales visualization, a reference line can represent our sales target, which makes it very clear whether the actual sales figures align with our objectives. Now, if we talk about the application of these reference lines find applications across various industries. In finance, they can assist in tracking the financial performance against a benchmark. In healthcare, they can highlight the patient metrics compared to the clinical standards. In education, they can help us to evaluate the student performance in relation to the educational goals. If we incorporate these reference lines into our Tableau visualization, it would add an essential context which would make our data more meaningful and actionable. Whether you are analyzing the financial data, monitoring the key performance indicators, or accessing any data set against the specific benchmark, the reference lines can provide the quality, clarity, and facilitate the better decision making to our data. Now, let's go to the Tableau screen and see how we can use these reference lines to make some informed decisions. So we are in our data set, and now we'll talk about how we can make these reference lines. Previously, we saw how we can make this constant lines and average lines, and we saw what was the difference between those two. Whereas these constant lines were constant in nature and it was taken through a simple value, we were giving some values over here. This reference line would be also doing the same amount of job for us. So let's say I'm taking any category wise sales. So let me take the subcategory from over here and let me take some sales data from over. And I'm making the bar chart over here. If you want to add any reference over here, give me a moment. Let's say I'm trying to fit it in the entire view of this data and I'm arranging it in the decreasing format. Now let's say if I want a reference line over here, what was happening in the average line? First we'll talk about that. If I was taking the average line over here and I was classifying any subcategory over here, if it is performing good or performing bad, just based on this average lines. Sometimes it is not good because you can see over here, since there would be multiple categories that would be below this average line or which would be very far from this average line. Even if I try to increase the average of these particular subcategories, let's say labels and fasteners, this particular average line would be moving far. And these categories would be always lying in the area where they need some improvement. So what I can do is instead I can provide a reference line over it. And this reference line can help me understand whether that particular subcategory is meeting a specific criteria or not. So let's talk about reference line. I drag this reference line over here, and the first option that it is giving is for the table option. So let's drag it in the table. After you have dragged it in table, it would ask you what kind of reference are you looking for. Right now it is kept it as table, and it would show you that whether you want this line to be at the average. If I choose the average, it would be behaving as the average line. I can choose any parameter from over here, or I can choose a new parameter also. So if you click on new parameter, it would then ask you what is the kind of parameter that you want to make. So this would be the window that would be shown. Let's cancel it right now. Over here, right now, since I have taken this sum of sales, this is the exact parameter that I'm working on. It is asking me what is the aggregating method that you want. You want to take the average, the total, sum, the constant value, minimum, maximum, or median value. So if I choose any constant value, it would be asking me what is the constant value that you want to keep. So let's say I'm keeping the sales value of 1,50,000. So I kept this value as 1,50,000 and it has made my line over here. Now, if you want to give the value to this particular line, you can do it by giving the label of value. If you just want to show the computation, you can also do the computation over here, and you can also choose a custom label over here. Right now, let's keep it as computation only. It would also ask you what is the amount of, or what is the item that you want to show on the top of this lines tooltip. So if I hover over this line, what should it tell me? So you can put that thing in the tooltip option. Right now I'm leaving it as automatic. Then it would ask you what do you want to make your line look like. That is basically the formatting option. So if you want the line to be solid, you can choose this line. If you want it to be the dash line, you choose the dash line and it has made my line dashed. If you want to increase the thickness of line, because it can be hidden into your paths, so you can also increase the thickness and you can also change the colors. So let's keep this line as the dark green line, and I want to know whenever any subcategory has met this criteria, I should say that it is in safe zone. So I have made this line dark over here. If you want to edit it again, you can click on this line and you can choose the edit option. So here I have the edit option and I have the format option as well. So right now the shading is given as white color. Let me give the green color towards it for the label, and also I can do the same thing for the line. Now it has applied. If you want to increase the darkness of this line, you can increase the opacity from over here also if it is not visible. So over here, I can see this line is now made on the value of 1,50,000, and whatever sub values, subcategory values would be crossing this line would be meeting a specific target of the sales. So then that particular subcategory comes as good. It is far better than the average line where I was taking the average of every subcategory over here. So even though I just wanted the labels, partners, and other subcategories to just perform over 1,50,000, I would be saying they are not performing well. If I'm taking any average line or if I'm taking the constant line and if I'm taking any aggregate measure over here. But if I'm taking the reference line, I can easily take the reference of these. Now, if I drag this reference line again over here, it would again try to create a reference line. Let's say this time I'm choosing the median of this data. Okay. It would create a line for me over here. Just beside the average line, you can see there is this median line. So what I'll do is I'll just remove this average line. So you can create multiple reference lines also. Let's say if you are creating a reference line for just meeting the targets, whatever targets you have given for the subcategories, you have just made that clear with the help of this reference line. And with the help of next reference line, you want to see what are the categories which are performing exceptionally well. You can try to keep it with the help of different reference line. So over here, I have taken the median, but you cannot take median every time. You can even take the other values as well. You can take a fixed value like this. You can keep the values at 7,50,000 maybe, and this would give you the categories which are performing way better than your expectations. So in this way, I can create multiple reference lines on the top of my visualization. Now let's talk a bit about the pane option in the reference lines. Let's say if I'm again taking the subcategory wise sales, and I know since subcategories and categories are in hierarchy, so if I drag this category just ahead of this subcategory, it would take the subcategories into hierarchy of this category. If I convert it into the bar charts, these are the kind of bars that I will be looking at. Let me format them a bit more and sort them in the ascending or descending order. So right now I have made them in the descending order. If I drag this reference line now, it would give me another three options. Again, these three options. The first one is table. We know that if I drag this on the top of table, it would give me the reference line on the top of the whole table. This time I am choosing the pane option. So it is giving me the lines individually on top of every pane. So you can see right now it is taking the aggregation as the average only, but I don't want to see the average. Let me take a constant value of, let's say, 2,50,000 this time. And now I have the value of over 2,50,000 with this reference line. So this is one of the way. If I have chosen the pane option, I need to be very sure that these reference lines are showing differently in different ways. Because you can see that the whole aim of choosing this reference line was choosing the different lines for different panes. So whatever option I did right now would be converting your lines into the panes. But if you are keeping the values as same, then coming on the top of each other and making it look like a single line. But this is one of the options in which you can try to keep it in the different panes. Now, if I'm choosing the cells option from over here, let's remove these lines over here and let's try to choose the pane option. So if I drag this reference line in the cell option now, it would give me the reference line just ahead of every cell. So you can see this is the line that is coming. So these lines are coming at the average of that particular portion, but if you want it to keep at any reference, you can keep it. So these are the three ways in which you can try to add the reference line on the top of table, or if you want on the pane only, or if you want on the different cells. I hope this lecture was clear to you. In the next section, we'll be talking about using the reference band. So reference band is basically using this kind of option. So whatever area lies between these two reference lines would be known as the reference band. And we have a separate option for the reference band over here. We'll see how we can use it.